back to Insights by Outside X Season 2, a one-stop shop for all things IPM here at DOMS Nalsar. Hi guys, my name is Jigyasa Sharma and I am part of the batch of 2027 here at DOMS Nalsar. And today I have with me here Samanvi Bathala, she's my fellow batchmate from the class of 2027, and Nishita, she's my senior from the batch of 2026. And thank you so much guys for being here. In fact, today for this episode, I cannot be more privileged, in fact, to do this because both of these are one of the most exemplary people in our entire batch of IPM. So Nishita, in fact, has been a finance intern for PineLabs. She has had a LinkedIn presence beforehand, even coming here. She has had fellowships in the consulting realm, as well as had a research paper just published in LSR's Lady Shri Ram College's annual academic journal, whereas Samanvi has been a marketing intern, has been doing internship in the HR as well as accounting realm. She is also has been doing a lot of sports in karate, a throw ball, as well as she has been a training placement cell member, and so has Nishita. She's been a member of the MPRC, which stands for the Media and Public Relations Cell. So thank you guys so much for coming in here. You guys, this CV that you guys have had has been truly exemplary, and it is something that I want to also have, in fact. So before jumping in, I want to know, both of you guys, so what exactly is a CV and how different is it from a resume, and what are the parts essentially of a CV? Sam, why don't you take this?
So I think for any B school student, one of the most important thing is CV. If I can quote this line, people say that one paper cannot decide your future, but trust me, this one CV paper can decide your future at a company for sure. So when it comes to CV and difference between a resume, CV looks at you as a very holistic person.
Right.
But when it comes to resume, it is more oriented towards one particular job role that you are applying for. CV gives you a complete details about what you are, what your extracurricular activities have been, what have internships that you have done so far, any academic projects that you have been involved in, along with your educational background. But when it comes to your resume, it is an in-depth detail. It gives you an in-depth detail about what all you have done at your company or an internship,
right,
which is again more oriented towards getting a job, whereas CV is more holistic person, and it also helps you get into your dream universities and other internships as well.
Right.
Yeah, I think Samanvi has pretty much explained it really well. So if I were to just put it in one word, I would say that a CV is for educational institutes. Let it be your PhD, your master's, your bachelor's. That is where your CV is used.
Right.
And for a resume, it's basically focused towards your job opportunities. Let's say a fellowship, an internship. So that's where a CV is concerned.
Right. So talking more about the CV in itself, since we are in fact at an educational institute. So what are the parts of a CV? So the training and placement cell hold CV round where they give us mock CVs, and we have to build our CV in accordance to that. So Nishita, what are the aspects and what are the realms that a CV covers in general?
All right. So if I were to put it in very crisp terms, I would say that you can basically start with your educational qualifications. Then you have your projects and initiatives.
Right.
Then you have your work experience, and then there's leadership experiences. If someone wants to, explain those, you can go right ahead.
Oh yeah. Again, as Nishita has covered, these are the main things that are supposed to be in your CV. If I had to say, everything in a CV has to be balanced. You cannot have your great amount of internships and less amount of extracurriculars. That does not really reflect you as what a person you are. So again, PORs, position of responsibility, I think is very important for any student to have it on their CV along with their internships, because this POR, position of responsibility, does not just add a lot of value to your CV, but also gives you as a person who you are, gives you a lot of contacts, gives you an exposure to how things actually work, not within the university, but also outside the university.
I think that's an excellent point about positions of responsibility. People take it lightly, but it reflects the kind of skills. It's a marker for the holistic person that you are, the responsibilities. And Nishita, in fact, you have been a senior coordinator of the Media and Public Relationship Cell. So how has your journey in that being holding such an important responsibility? How was it? How was it like?
I think so. I've been a part of the media and public relations cell for about 2.5 years now,
Right.
and it has been nothing short of an amazing experience. So we have our faculty heads Vivek Pani sir and Deepti Jog ma'am.
Right.
So the basic job of media and public relations cell is to control everything that goes out from dorms
Right.
to the outer world.
Right.
So that comprises of we have our guest lectures, we have covering events, we have hosting press events. My work has mainly included designing. Like I may have designed something north of 500 pieces of graphics over my time at media and PR cell. And through my professor, actually, I was also asked by the registrar to design the Silver Jubilee logo for Nalsar. So that was like a peak for me. So yeah, that's what my time at MPRC has been like.
Wow, that's absolutely brilliant. I mean, in fact, so you have been designing your way through the university and have been showcasing everything that is Nalsar to the outside world. So that's absolutely brilliant. And Sam, what about you? I mean, how has holding a position of responsibility been like for you in the university in itself, and how do you feel has it added to your CV per se?
So as I said before, position of responsibility, trust me, looks great on your CV when someone from the outside is actually looking at your CV. But then one of the things that stood out for me the most in terms of the placement cell was that I was in constant contact with the HRs of the company, the associates or analysts, or even lately I've been dealing with a lot of VPs right now. So it gives you a lot of exposure to the contacts. Not just within the university but outside the university. In the later future, you can tap to these contacts and say, hey, I need this help. Is there a possibility we can look into? Trust me, that helps you a lot. And in terms of within the campus, we have our Zera, which is an annual fest of IPM Nalsar. Recently in that, I was a part of the logistics and the events management committee. In that, I really had the contacts of the person who opens the classroom doors till the registrar getting their things signed, getting the documents signed. It was a complete exposure to how things function. At the same time, you get a lot of contacts.
Right.
I think, yeah.
So I think those kind of positions of responsibility not only add to yourself but to the network that you can possess as a B school student, right? So I mean, coming back to the layout of a CV, if I may, there is also an aspect that you guys talked about was the academic achievements. So what do we mean here by academic achievements, Nishita? Is it my GPA, or is it some allied project, or is it a research paper? Is it the research paper that you had recently published? What does it comprise essentially?
All right. So if you were to strictly talk about the academic experience according to a CV, it always starts with your GPA.
Right.
So that is a really important part of any CV for any person. For me personally, it's basically it acts as a step in the door kind of a situation.
Right.
So for me, I try to strike a balance between what a minimum percentage of GPA I need to get and with the extracurricular that I also need to cover.
Right.
So in my first year, I was in the top 6% of my class, and then for, like you mentioned, like the allied projects, I think research papers are also a big part of it. Like I recently wrote one research paper 3 months ago. It just got published yesterday into the LSR journal, like you mentioned. And I think it also comprises of other kind of projects that you take on. So like if you're doing case study projects. So I recently went to IP University in Hyderabad itself, where we pitched our business ideas to legit angel investors. So it was like a Shark Tank, but for business students.
Right.
So I feel like, so that experience was really good. And I would still count it as an academic experience because as a business student, this is what your, curriculum holds. To, present things, to sell a product, to sell yourself mostly.
Right.
So yeah, GPA with a perfect balance of all of these things is what, the aim is for me.
Right. And Sam, coming to you, I mean, you also are one of the top rank holders of our batch as well. And you have had an amazing academic record. Along with that, there's nothing short of the work experience that you have had, 7 internships with it. So did you feel like that GPA helped you in any shape or form with that, with those kind of internships and works that you did? I mean, what is your point of view here?
So honestly speaking, for when it comes to internship, the most crucial thing to get an internship is purely the skills.
Right.
Considering for a first year student.
Right.
But trust me, when it comes to CGP, it adds a lot of value the higher you go in your studies. Whether it's say for third year or even for your masters, the first thing they look at it is your CGPA. How much of CGPA do you have in comparison with your peers? So that's again very important. But at the same time, to get your foot into the internship world, I think skills is the most important thing to get in.
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, while talking about these skills, was there any particular skill that you feel should be reflected when we talk about a CV, or you felt like this was a skill that really helped me build a very good CV? It was what about you, Nishita? What do you think about it?
Alright, so I think as undergraduate students, whenever you're applying for an internship in a big shot company, the thing is, as an undergraduate student, you don't really have a scope to get a proper hardcore job experience, right?
Right.
So they can't really evaluate a student on the basis of what past experiences you've had.
Right.
So instead, this is what I have understood from my internship. They look for initiative, they look for leadership, they look for collaboration.
Right.
If you can show that, all right, so there was this marketing summit that DOMS held, Abhigyan. Were you a part of it? In what capacity were you a part of it?
Right.
You know, what all did you do? Is there initiative? Like, were you just an attendee, or did you actually contribute was there any value addition from your end? So you need not have, so like if you're in the second year, you need not have like a really big name in your CV. As long as you can show that, you have the drive, the zeal, and the energy to take up things and to follow through on them, I think that is the biggest thing that people look for in a CV. And I think that people self-reject a lot. Like, I am a part of that club myself. Only recently have I realized that, it's the worst thing you can do for yourself.
Okay.
So I feel like whatever experience you can get in a college, it's nothing is less. Like, nothing, do not downgrade your experiences, whether it be, a competition that you've organized within 5 people. It's still something. Whatever you've done, put it on there. That's what I have to say.
Okay.
I completely agree with Nishita. I cannot deny even 1% of it. And yes, in terms of a leadership thing, when it comes to CV perspective, it's not about, hey, I have done this, I was a part of this. Rather than putting the sentence in that structure, write it in your CV, what value have you added? Write in terms of numbers. Say, for example, I have done my social media internship. Social media marketing internship. In that, write how much percentage of impressions did you increase? How many what was the increase in engagement? So write it in terms of what value you have added in that while doing that. At the same time, it also reflects how leadership oriented. At the same time, you're a very precise person. Hey, this is what I have done. This is what I've contributed. So I can contribute more. It shows a very, it shows you as a person itself.
I would like to add something here. So, like you mentioned about the numbers. So the thing is, it's like I have been a part of media and public relations cell. I was also the rep of Ethereal, the cultural club. So the thing with these clubs is that, like you have to pass into elections and then you have to get elected.
Right.
But then you get the opportunity to actually handle budgets.
Right.
Like, I think that is a very important bit. So myself, I got to, deal with the MPRC budget and the ethereal budget included, which was something like in totality, if I were to say 2,50,000,
Right.
which is not a lot of money if you think about it. But if you can show to your future recruiters that, like, okay, I handled money not only responsibly, this is what I did. And the department trusted me enough to give me that money to handle that. I think, again, to put that in terms of, okay, I generated this much of revenue in, my time in MPRC, then that is a great thing that you could do for yourself. Like, numbers, I agree with Samanvi completely, is a favor for your CV.
All right. So that's a very interesting. I had never thought of it that way. I mean, these kind of things, the way you write it also matters in that CV. It's like there's one thing you're doing these, and the another thing is portraying how you have done it. And you're talking about these internships per se. Like a lot of people want to do them, but they can't. So what has been the process for you to bag that internship? Sam, why don't you take that?
Right. So getting your first internship is definitely one hell of a journey, because for me, I thought that when I was giving my college interviews, I thought, hey, I have a lot of things that I've done on my plate already. So getting an internship wouldn't be that difficult. But trust me, the process was completely different to what I thought it would have been. So it's like people often say that getting that 1 crore of salary revenue that you generate is very difficult. Post that, it gets easily compounded and it's easier. In the similar manner, internships also goes in the same way. You get your first internship, then you can just constantly get internships, and that journey keeps going on. But with that one internship, getting that one particular internship is definitely a game changer. So getting into that as to how to get an internship, first thing is obviously Internshala. There is no better place than Internshala to get it. Again, there are some loopholes in Internshala that you have to avoid in order to get an internship. Other than that, reach out to companies' HR on LinkedIn, not just HRs, but people who are around them. Maybe, let's say, if you want to get a finance internship, connect with someone who is in the field of finance in that
Right.
company. Text them, ki, hey, hi, I am so and so, I'm interested in doing it. And slowly, when you take it to the HR, this person can refer you. So there are two bases again, Internshala and personal contacts via LinkedIn.
Okay, that's a very interesting thing to say. And I think Nishita, you were also talking to me about this previously, that before even in fact coming to Nalsar, you had been involved in the realm of doing social internships within NGO with that field. So I mean, why did you take that up, and what was your journey with that even before having the mind to do an internship, since you want to build a CV or into a particular realm of, say, I mean marketing or finance, but that was just an independent choice that you made. Why that, and how was it? Tell us that story.
Alright, so I would like to start off by saying that my mom is actually a psychology grad.
Right.
So I have been in contact with the subject since before even, I was in the age group to actually study that.
Right.
So being around my mom and, the love that she has for psychology always attracted me to the subject.
Right.
And when I was in my 11th grade, is when I actually understood that parents lie to you about, 10th is the last time you have to work out. That's not true. So it's 11th when I actually understood that. So I was like, okay, so I have my boards,
Right.
but what else can I do to, make myself happy?
Right.
And I wanted to contribute to the social strata of the world. Like I did one social volunteer work for 6 months. So in that, what it was that there were workshops that were held to make emotional toolkits for the people in underprivileged societies. Like they were children of the sex work community people who were completely underprivileged, and like they have no resources whatsoever to help them out.
Right.
And finding out that okay, that this is something I could do to that would make me go to bed happy. So basically I wanted to have that feeling in myself, so this is why I did it. So I did, like I mentioned, one volunteer work of 6 months, and I also did a social internship wherein we worked towards at the grassroots level community. So yeah, that is where I try to intersect my interest in psychology with my basically social gratification needs.
Right.
So yeah, so that's how I did it. And I would say, yeah, if I were to talk about how I brought that into the business world, I first looked at behavioral economics as like a subject that I could
Right.
potentially get into. And after you come into a university, you realize, okay, there are more things than I knew. And your peers tell you, okay, like, okay, this is what you're interested in, this is what you could pursue.
Right.
So I found out the subject and I thought, okay, maybe I could pursue it. But then this is how like the whole exploration journey goes, like you hold on to one subject, you research about it, and then you realize, okay, maybe this is not the fit for me. So from there, I moved to finance, does my finance internship. And from there, I think now I have, like sort of evolved into consulting. Like I want to explore what consulting is like.
Okay.
That's why, so I applied to a couple of fellowships in July this year, and I got into both of them, which was a peak of for my CV, I would say. Yeah, so one of them was is international. It's in Spain, Madrid. So it's basically with Airbus. And we work with the CEOs or the CXOs of the company.
Right.
And the team that I will be a part of next year will have leaders from McKinsey and the Big Four, and like we have PwC, we have Bain & Co. So all of those companies, the consultants from there are going to be heading us. We are going to be presenting with them. We're going to be working with them.
Right.
So this is something that I'm really looking forward to, and also to bring my own hint of psychology into that. So I'm
Right.
just trying to daggle between the two. Let's see what works out for me. But yeah, right now I would say consulting is something that I wanted to explore, and I would say I have sort of dipped my toes in it.
I think that's very interesting, not sticking into one realm, allowing yourself that freedom, so that I like this subject, but I also like this subject. So how can I bring that blend into it? And Sam has been sort of like that. She has
Yeah.
been a finance kid through and through, but now talking to you, and you've been delving a lot into the field of marketing, and learning the field of marketing, and going ahead from the learnings of your internship and trying to implement it through an entrepreneurial journey. Talk to me about that, Sam. Being that typical finance kid who talks about GST filings to talking about what are the latest real trends on social media. Tell me, why that shift now?
That's the beauty of a B school. You come with such a predefined mind. Hey, this is what I want, but then you just see so many a plethora of options that are in front of you, and then you try to pick up each and everything, each and new thing every single time that you go. And in terms of the entrepreneurial thing, after doing all the internships, one thing that struck me is that, hey, we have been working for other companies and other startups. Why not start our own thing? And out of all of it, marketing was something that I was skilled in with my other co-founder. So I thought, hey, let's pick this up, let's monetize it, let's start an entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's what precisely a B school teaches you, how to become good entrepreneurs. So I think, from there, it just started the journey.
And I think to the both of you, many, many congratulations on your entrepreneurial steps and for the fellowship ahead. I think these are such inspiring things that I think will help you. I mean, a lot of these days, I feel like we might fall into the trap of a typical generic CV, right? And that syndrome of, doing X number of courses from Coursera, doing this and this internship, and that's it. That's your typical CV. But these are kind of beautiful things that have made you stand out. And, all of this have been made, all of this shapes you also as a person, and, helps you stand out of that pool of people that you have around us. So how has that, tell me about the personal journey and personal growth that has helped you, in while helping you build a CV in a technical, in an objective sense, but in a holistic, in a personal sense. What has that been like for you, Nishita, as an individual?
All right. So like I mentioned about psychology, I think that was where I started. And I am a person who was, actually I had massive stage fright. Like, I could not be the person who was standing in front of like 300 people and like get a word out of my mouth. I could just not do that. But I feel like talking strictly about the technical things coming here, and as personal aims also, after coming to Nalsar, having been a business student for 2 years now, like, if you ask me to sell a pen while I'm walking to the mess, I can do that at this point. I have, along with my batchmates and my peers, I have some odd 50 to 100 presentations, 10 to 15 pitches to angel investors, to like proper people who are like industry experts. So to go from, like having complete stage fright and anxiety to being completely all right with myself and comfortable in my skin enough to talk about whatever it is that I want. In fact, this podcast itself, I would not be able to shoot this 2 years ago. I just want the record to show that. So yeah, that is the kind of personal growth that I would, say. And to talk about the technical things that you're mentioning, like Samanvi mentioned, the startup culture, I think DOMS is hugely supportive of, student collaboration and student initiatives. Be it a club, a cell, or a startup of yourself, DOMS has always encouraged us, be it in the, even if they're kind words, like from the professors, or be it in the terms of resources. We are getting, we're getting budgets from the department itself. So the department has been massively supportive of, whatever ideas we have, and to, carry that out to do it. OSX itself was, I became a part of it later, but then the idea itself was born when we were still online. So it happened in the isolation of the rest of the batch. And to think, all right, even when we're online, we've still not gotten to the campus yet, but there's still like three people group who have done this, even when they're not on the campus.
Like,
there's
not interacting.
There's no immediate gratification, right? Like, why would you do that?
Do that, right.
But then still to have that come into our purview and to carry that out 2.5 years later, it's still thriving. And then going ahead myself to, be partnering up with two amazing of my peers to have our own initiative. I wouldn't call it a startup yet, but yeah, it's an initiative. It's called Cali. It's like a productivity nervous system that we're working on. We've gotten Microsoft for startups for this. Like, we've raised, so till now we've managed to get 8 lakhs in OpenAI credits. We've also gotten our own domain. We have our own website, our own domain. So I feel like, so that has been a real achievement, talking personally. it's just an initiative right now, but I feel like there's a lot of support that's been happening between the three of us. It's an ecosystem, and it's we're building it right now, but I have a lot of confidence in it, and with the support of the department also, I think it's gonna do things.
And that's thriving. I mean, that's truly to say truly thriving. And Sam, talk to me about it. What I mean, you coming in and within the span of a year, I mean, from a fresh graduate from school and to here, I mean, what's that personal journey and personal growth been like?
Yeah, so I came with an intention ki after 3 years I know which company I want to go or which university I want to. So I came with a very predefined mind, hey, this is what I want. So I was looking for spikes in my CV. I wanted spikes in my CV which would make me stand out of the crowd.
Right.
In that process, you go and reach out to everyone possible, whether it be the professors, students. You reach out to everyone. You learn communication skills. You do not fear talking to any new person. You can just go talk to someone, have a genuine conversation. It just happens so naturally after a point. And as Nishita pointed out, the presentations that we have done even in our first year and even till date, it just there's a lot of personal growth that happens. And in terms of the company, the startup that we have, we recently went to one of our potential client who turned out to be a possible investor for us. In that case, I mean, our communication skills really stood out at that point. I really think that it was our communication skills and our zeal in whatever we were doing that made him feel, hey, these students are nice, we can invest in them. So I think what B School does is a lot of communication development, and it enhances your communication skills so much that you can just go and step into the real world and have initiatives and conversations about it.
That is so true. I mean, it's not just about what you learn, it's about who you become. That is those kind of things that really teaches you in B School, which, would not teach you any place else. It's like the way the curriculum is built, the way the professors teach you, the way you co-create with your peers. I think that's something to really look for and to learn. And also, I have been really wondering this question myself personally, is like, what do you, I came here, I didn't have a lot of things in my CV. There was MUNs and debate stuff that I had done. But I mean, do you think is a minimum time that you need for, to get your CV from a said level to another level, which you can actually show for yourself and put it out there for either to get an internship, to get any other projects in that manner? What is that? How much time does it really take? What is that temporality about making a CV? Nishita, why don't you take this question?
Okay, so great question, by the way. I'm sure a lot of our viewers actually wonder that because they might be looking at colleges themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that there's no ideal time to have this set stipulated amount of achievements. I think it's very subjective when it comes to people. Like the kind of achievements that I may want, you may already have, and it may not be enough for me, or it may be enough for you.
Right.
So it differs, right? So, but I would say personally, for me, when I entered in my first year, my primary aim was to, be at the center of events, to organize events and all of that. So I would say my personal plan was first year, I have to organize events. Second year needs to be some focus on academics, and there also needs to be initiative in the sense that, I, let's say, handle some sort of budget that MPRC gets.
Right.
So that was it. And now in the third year, a lot of it is actually focus on my grades. So it differs from people to people. So for the first 2 years, my focus was sharply on the kind of internships I'm getting, the kind of opportunities I'm getting. Abhi recently, I just had a person from a boutique IB firm reach out.
Okay.
So for freelancing work, so that's also in the pipelines.
Okay.
So that is the thing. Like, what are you actively pursuing in the moment, and what are your passive goals in the moment?
Okay.
So for now, my active goal is to get a stellar third year internship on my CV as well, and my passive goal is to make sure that my grades doesn't dip in all of these this hoarding and I just need to make sure that both of these things are completely balanced, as Samanvi previously also mentioned. So that's it for me.
And Sam, talking about going ahead with this, is it fair of me to say that should we really separate the two things, portfolio building and academics? Are those a separate entities that work in silos, or is that something very interrelated? What is your idea here?
If I have to be very honest, academics and CV is just one thing, is what I strongly believe.
Right.
You cannot separate these two things at all. In order to have a great CV, you need to have good academic scores. At the same time, in order to have, even if you have good academic
Right.
scores, it's a very important for you to have a very good CV. Without that, it's very difficult to crack your internships or any job, or even universities in that matter, for your masters or MBA, if I had to say.
Right,
So
right.
it's very difficult for you to differentiate both of them. For me, I knew that academics is something that I have to do, for sure, focus on them. At the same time, for me to get into where I want to, whether it be finance internships or for my masters abroad, I knew that academics is not the only thing that people will consider. It should be a part of your extracurriculars, whether it be sports, case study competitions, or writing research papers. Taking part in everything possible and showing that, and showing your leadership qualities is something that's very, very important. So again, never think that these two things are separate. They're always the same, and you have to work equally on the same. And when you're actually talking about what's the duration to get an
Right.
ideal CV done, honestly, CV is something that is a constant process. There is no end. This is my CV done. Now can get any internship. That's not really how things work, or even in that matter
Right,
for
right.
a job. CV is something that keeps changing every few months. And one tip that I would want to give is that the first CV that I have made was in my 11th grade.
Okay.
And the transition that I have made to CV till now, I can see the difference. Every CV that I make, I save it in a proper file with the date and the month, so that I can look back. What's the difference between my first CV or even my previous CV till the very CV that I use it right now? Yeah.
So-
I actually agree with that. So it's the same thing with me, because I started volunteering and interning when I was in the 11th grade. Even I have a folder
Yeah.
exactly like that. So the first CV I showed to my father, okay, this is all that I did, and he was like, "Oh, that's a great job." But now, if I look at it, there's so many more bullet points, there's so many more headings, and
Headings,
there's so
bold.
many more things
Yeah.
you've done. So it feels so good. Like in the moment when you're doing those things, it might not feel the best, right? Like there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety that goes into it. But at the end of it, when you're done,
Right.
like there is so much satisfaction to look back upon it. And I would say that so many people from both of our batches combined would feel the same way,
Right.
because everyone has started from, let's say, very little, and have now gone to something that's exemplary in their own ways.
Absolutely.
So that is something that's very beautiful, that I have seen happen and I have witnessed myself also. Yeah.
I think, all of this has been really, really beautiful to hear. So, wrapping and, bringing it all back to what is, I think, in a line, if you wanted to give yourself a lesson, that 11th grader in you who first made their first CV, what is that one line would you like to give them? One sort of lesson that, third year Nishita or second year Sam has learned over the years. What is that one line that you want to tell her?
I mean, I think I would tell myself, this is not it, keep at it. Like,
Okay.
that's what I would say.
What about you,
It's
Sam?
very accurate. I think I cannot define it in a better manner, but I think, yeah, CV is like a Rubik's cube. You know what your end goal is, but you have to keep figuring out
True.
things. In between, you might feel like this is a lot messier than what I thought it would be.
Right.
But trust me, the end goal would be great, and it would be like a proper piece of Rubik's cube. Now it might be messy. Just wait for it, work on it till you get to that stage.
I think
I would like to say that stage would be retirement. Like the CV never stops, like you said. It is never perfect,
That's true.
like completely symmetrical. As long as you retire, keep going at it. Like
Yeah.
I said.
Yeah. From that simple Rubik's Cube, maybe get a bigger one and more complex
Yeah,
one.
a
So
complex
16 by
one.
16 or
Yeah.
maybe the next Rubik's Cube in the market. So I think,
True.
thank you so much, guys. This has been absolutely amazing. I mean, I wish I had a pen right now, the things that you guys have said and the things I will take back, and I hope our readers also take back and learn. I mean, this is a dynamic process. Don't fall short of anything. Don't be sad about any moment in time, because understand that this is a process, guys. This is not something that defines you entirely. It is it's a journey. Keep at it. Thank you, guys. Bye bye.